Welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. My name is Molly McLaughlin, and I own a company that optimizes sleep through technology, accountability, and behavioral change. Each week, I'll be interviewing world-class experts ranging from doctors, innovators, and thought leaders to give actionable tips and strategies that you can implement to become a more skillful sleeper. Let's jump into your dose of practical sleep training. Welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. This is a very special episode, and the reason for that is that we've never done a format quite like this. The format is actually investigating and understanding a bit more about what it looks like to participate in some of our programs that we have here over at Sleep is a Skill. We're almost at 100 episodes, and very rarely have we actually touched on what does it actually look like to work with Sleep as a Skill to support your own sleep? So if you've found yourself over here listening to our podcast and wanting to improve, whether it's your sleep stats or just your experience of your sleep, how you feel overall, your productivity, like whatever it might be, however you found yourself on over here, we do want to let you know about, especially if you're really struggling with your sleep or for whatever reason that you want to improve your sleep, we are all about doing that. But for any of those reasons and more, we want to give you a little bit more insight into what it would look like to participate in our program. So we actually have the honor and privilege of bringing over an incredible participant of our Optimize Your Sleep programs. They used to be called Reset Your Sleep, and now we've shifted them over to Optimize Your Sleep, because that's really what we're aiming to do, is to optimize your sleep to really uncommon levels in modern society. So the Optimize Your Sleep program, Greg was a participant of that and really transformed his entire life out of this program. And I'm so excited for him to share what came about for him, the difference that he experienced in both unexpected areas, like he lost a whole lot of weight that he's going to share with you. Unexpectedly, it kind of wasn't the original intention per se, but he really came in to make a difference with his sleep, and all of these other areas of his life improved in the process. Now, fast forward, on the other side of completing the programs, he was actually inspired by this whole concept of approaching health and life through this lens of a skill set and gathering information, experimentation, testing, and seeing quantifiably how we can improve our health metrics. And he actually created a product that he now, unfortunately, part of the podcast, we talked about this product, but he has since signed an NDA because he's in the midst of a very cool accelerator program. So we're going to try to cut out some of that part, but just know that he's got some really cool things coming. And he really credits his time with Sleep as a Skill of being an impetus behind having the insights and the wherewithal and the understanding that this is a needed area of health and wellness to take on, and actually created something that's never been created before. So that will be a cool thing down the road when we can talk about that. But but getting into a little bit about Greg so that you have that background for this conversation, I think you're going to enjoy his presence just as much as I have. Greg Calderiso is a people-first technology executive with 20 years of professional experience. He specializes in servant leadership, talent transformation, organizational design, core system modernization, strategic planning, change management, and agile frameworks. Greg has a proven track record of leading, upskilling, and optimizing cross-functional teams to execute technology transformations and strategic business objectives. He excels in collaborating with C-level executives to build long-term strategic relationships and roadmaps. Greg is a continuous learner and graduated with his MBA from Bryant University in 2009. Greg used this education to continually evaluate and push the use of new technologies to create a more innovative, efficient, and collaborative environment within the companies he's worked for. He earned a second master's degree in science and technology leadership from Brown University in May of 2019. He walks his talk as a leader by living into his core values of leading with vulnerability, empathy, communication, and most importantly, seeking to understand. He believes in bringing his authentic self to work every day, being insatiably curious, and continuous coaching that is all complemented by data-driven decision making. Now, again, this is the first of its kind of this type of podcast. So I would really love your feedback. Was this helpful for you? Did this help you gain more insights into what can become available to you as you explore this whole world of sleep optimization and all the often unexpected things that can come about in that process of transformation? Let us know. You can always reach out to us at sleepisaskill.com. And if you are interested in participating in any of our programs, just head on over to sleepisaskill.com and you can see our offerings there. So I get a lot of questions around sleep supplements, and I'm very hesitant to just throw out a whole laundry list of possibilities. One, I don't think it's the most responsible thing to do. I really do believe in testing to see what types of supplements make sense for you. And two, because I really truly believe that most of the things that you can do to improve your sleep are behavioral, psychological, environmental in nature, and often don't cost a dime. However, there is one supplement that I personally take every day and that I do feel quite comfortable with suggesting for most individuals to experiment with because of a couple of reasons. Its high safety profile and high rates of deficiencies in our modern society. Some put the numbers as somewhere around 80% of the population being deficient in this one area, and that is magnesium. So magnesium has been called the calming mineral, and some report that magnesium can increase GABA, which encourages relaxation on a cellular level, which is critical for sleep. Magnesium also plays a key role in regulating our body's stress response system. Those with magnesium deficiency usually have higher anxiety and stress levels, which negatively impact sleep as well. Now, before you go out and buy a magnesium supplement, it's important to understand that most magnesium products out there are either synthetic or they only have 1 to 2 forms of magnesium, when in reality, your body needs all 7 forms of this essential sleep mineral. So that's why I recommend a product from my friends over at BioOptimizers. They have created something called the Magnesium Breakthrough. And taking this magnesium before bed helps you relax and wake up refreshed and energized. And while we don't recommend that you go too nuts on looking at all the sleep stage classifications on all your wearables, I will share anecdotally that many clients have reported improvements in their deep sleep trend numbers. Again, I don't want you going nuts on the sleep stage classification numbers on your wearables, but I do want to let you know about that because I know that many of you do reach out on questions of how to improve your deep sleep. So I also love that BioOptimizers offers free shipping on select orders, and they offer a 365-day money-back guarantee on all their products. Plus, they have a customer satisfaction rating of 99.3%. Very impressive. And you can get 10% off Magnesium Breakthrough. Again, this is the same magnesium that I use every single night. And finally, you can get 10% off Magnesium Breakthrough. Again, that's the magnesium supplement that I use every single night by going to magbreakthrough.com/sleep-is-a-skill. And be sure to use the code sleep-is-a-skill for 10% off. And welcome to the Sleep is a Skill podcast. My guest today is just a dear, dear friend, and it began in a really amazing way. I have so much to say on this podcast episode, and this is a unique podcast episode because we've never done one like this before. And what this one looks like is actually having one of our participants who has gone through our programs at Sleep is a Skill and not only has transformed their relationship to their sleep, but like starting a company and doing all kinds of amazing things in the realm of optimizing health. Just such a cool path that's been formed and merged or forged, all the words that I'm saying. And it's so, Greg, I am so grateful to have you here today. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Molly, it means so much. It's and the honor of being the first. That will forever stay close to my heart.
Yes.
And I agree. It's amazing what a friendship we have formed out of this. So grateful for that and so many things that we'll cover today.
Oh, amazing. Yeah. I don't take it lightly anytime someone comes our way looking to improve both their, sleep and their health by virtue of tackling this area of life that is so often neglected. And often, it's a really cool and intimate process because we get to learn so much about ourselves, our habits, what's working, what's not working. And for those people that really put themselves, at stake, like you certainly did, there's the opportunity of so many different things transform that might have been unexpected. And so it was just so amazing to see your, not only your progress, but then to take it to this whole other level. And now you're informing me half the time around different things that are happening in the world of sleep. So you just have been such a delight and just such an incredible student of taking on this concept that sleep really is a skill. So, just with all of that to say that, how did that even come to pass that you even found yourself at Sleep as a Skill, and just hearing a little bit about all that?
I wish that I could give credit to whatever podcast I found you on.
Yeah.
I don't remember, but it was the name. It was Sleep is a Skill.
Yeah.
And myself being an overachiever and wanting to build skills, it was the first time I had heard it referenced like that. And reading through what your vision was and what your mission and values were, it really aligned with me in terms of like, okay, this is something I want to invest in. I want to build this skill and become better at it. It came at a really dark place in my life. Like I was struggling. I was on the verge of, do I need to go get sleep medication? I am barely sleeping 3 hours a night and just beyond ruminating and struggling. It was a mission that really aligned with what I needed.
Yeah. And I'm wondering if you can share too a little bit, it's kind of painting the picture of that, because so many people relate to that, and that happens for some, myself included, as you know.
Yeah.
And so certainly when the timeline of when we were connected, kind of in the midst of the pandemic, if I'm remembering correctly, right? And it's a challenging time for a lot of people, a lot of new variables. What did you see for yourself that was at play there that kind of had you brought to your kind of knees on, do I need to get prescription? What does this all look like?
The pandemic, I think for a lot of people was a look in the mirror of a life that they were living and then suddenly stopped. It was, you knew your normal. So my normal was just completely grinding, giving everything to my career, everything I could to my family. And on top of that, we were running an improv theater. So it was, I was so exhausted all the time, I was sleeping just fine. But on top of that, I was kind of unknowingly abusing alcohol. I was drinking every single night. So I probably wasn't falling asleep. It was more, I was just reaching a point of exhaustion and a good buzz and passing out. So when life slowed down and we weren't running an improv theater and I wasn't traveling for work, and I suddenly had to really stop and sit in it, and you start to reflect and evaluate on like what is actually resonating with me in terms of what I want to do and the stress that I was feeling and being really home all the time and just kind of in the thick of now a pandemic. We also were raising a toddler. We had a 6-month-old. She was born in June, so she really was maybe more like 8-month-old when that had all started. So we're going through different levels of stress and depression and isolation, and that all manifested itself for me with sleep. Even the overindulgence of alcohol no longer was helping me sleep. So it had reached a point where I knew I needed to get help, and I, being the problem solver I am, bought a Whoop. And that was really where it all started, was starting to understand my data. And I had bought that over the summer, I think in August. And then we hooked up a little bit later after that. But that data, that accountability, it was my digital accountability buddy. And that was when I first started to understand things like HRV, understand my physiology, and then the biomarkers that were really impacted by sleep and by alcohol. So I started to take some personal steps to take a step back. I just started throwing everything against the wall, dumping all the supplements I could in my body, everything I heard on a podcast, magnesium, like anything I could in my body, I was doing that. Every protocol I was doing. So suddenly it's like I had this health awakening, but I was doing all the things. So while I was trying to make improvements, I went to my extreme side of trying to be Mr. Fix-It on myself by listening and reading and going down every tunnel that I could. And again, once I came across you, it was like, yep, I need to pause, strip this back and build the skills and build confidence in sleep. Not that I'm just trying to fix it with all these like external, I thought I was going to do, start yoga. I did transcendental meditation. And immediately I was going to sleep better. And while those things would work from time to time, I didn't have confidence in it and I would regress very, very quickly. So again, it really was that skill word that I was like, yep, this is the program for me.
Ah, I love that. And I love that you mentioned too the sleep confidence piece, because I think that that can be so crucial. And some people will get kind of scared away or hesitant with this concept of data and, oh, I don't want to get obsessive and I don't want to, get lost in all these numbers, just simply want to sleep. But it sounds, my experience of you is someone that really took to this data for what we see its possibilities are, is that it's kind of another angle in at self-awareness and course correction and workability, and seeing, okay, let me just pattern spot and approach this kind of like an engineer and say, all right, well, some of these things are serving me and some of these things are not serving me. And I know that you really have even continued post the time here with Sleep as a Skill, that you've even taken this to the next level of further fine tuning your health and well-being by virtue of having some of these checks and balances. So I'm just curious, what are some of the takeaways that you then did discover with this data and then taking on this skill set approach?
Yeah, I think alcohol was the biggest one.
Yeah.
I think for the longest time, and workability is the perfect word that you use. Is right now I'm at a place where I still want workability with alcohol.
Of course,
there's social capital in it.
yes.
My wife and I went to Scotland for our honeymoon. We do love Scotch. I got very deep into craft beers, so there's an enjoyment factor of that. There's a social aspect of that I haven't yet completely given up, although I lately have found myself drifting a little bit further from it. I'm actually in the midst of a dry January right now.
Yeah.
So alcohol was the first thing where I think at first I tried to trick the numbers of like, how can I push the limits of this? What time can I have how many can I have? And what's the time I could have my last one where I'll have the least amount of impact on my sleep? And then let me see what supplements I can kind of layer on top of that. Can I use some charcoal or can I use something to try and get rid of it? So I think once I took a step back from trying to game the system and like maximize the indulgence while also maximizing like the most I could out of my sleep and my recovery scores. And I said, you know what? No, I'm really going to commit to this and strip it all back and understand, just let me get to my pure baseline. What am I actually running at when I take everything out of the mix and then start to layer back in? When you spend some time without those things, you start to really understand what is important. And I have found that alcohol is less and less important to me. There's a ritual to it. Well, guess what? I can get through that ritual with a non-alcoholic beer. So that Friday afternoon craving, it works over, crack a non-alcoholic. If I still want another beer, then I have a real beer. But instead of having two, I've had one non-alcoholic first. And sometimes that non-alcoholic does it for me. And it's so worth it on Saturday morning to wake up as the human being I want to wake up refreshed, to play with my daughter, to show up as the husband that I want to show up as, versus like knocking a fog off, being groggy, being cranky. Like there's no drug in the world that's better than sleep. Like it sounds cliche and cheesy, but there is no drug better than a good night's sleep and a restorative sleep, not just your time in bed.
Yes. Oh, well, you're preaching to the choir over here. And I love that 100%. I wish that we could get that message out more and more. And so we're stand to have that ripple into the masses. And then the more that we get this conversation out there, the more kind of partners in crime that can also be taking on things like what you're speaking to with these alcohol alternatives and, maybe a hybrid. So maybe it's not fully sobriety. We're not necessarily saying that. We're just finding that workability, as we spoke to, and getting creative. And sometimes that might mean kind of out of the box solutions to some of these ways that we want to state change and have that state change in a way that works for us.
Right.
So the other thing I wanted to check in with you on is one of the things that we like to say with Sleep as a Skill is this Trojan horse effect, this concept that one of the ways we go into this topic is to really transform your sleep. But in order to transform your sleep, there's all these other areas that get transformed in the process and that were really required to be looked at and then adjusted in order to get more workability. So I'm curious if you have other areas of your life that kind of unexpectedly shifted in this process.
Yeah, I wish I had my pom-poms for you right now to shake them, because what you said about a Trojan horse is exactly right. And that's what you are, Molly, is this starts as examining and looking at sleep, but it really becomes an examination of your life and your values and the way that you want to live your life. just through a lens of sleep. Sleep is kind of the outcome,
Mm.
because and it sounds daunting. Like when you really, when I articulate this, it's going to sound daunting maybe to the listener or someone who's thinking about it.
Yeah.
If you look at your day in a series of pluses and minuses of the actions you're going to take, the behaviors that you engage in, what you're going to consume, all of them have a plus or minus in terms of the quality of your sleep. And at the end of it, and it does take some time, you're going to discover a really specific recipe. And there was someone on your podcast that used that term, and I've loved it, is it's very personalized. You're going to discover a recipe that it's like, oh, I can put it in the bank. I can use that when I know I need to hit the reset button. But truly, the people you engage with, the types of conversations that you have, the time on your screens, the type of content, the type of food, every single thing. And again, it sounds overwhelming, but leads up to the quality of your sleep. So it starts with that lens, but it really is peel the layers back and deep dive into your life, where you start to decide what choices you're going to make. And some of those might be relationship choices of like, maybe whether it's a partner, whether it's a work environment that you've got to make some choices on. I made a choice, and it wasn't a direct outcome of me going through the program, but I changed jobs. And there was a lens behind being able to be home with my family, getting the opportunity to watch my daughter grow up, feeling really value aligned to the work that I was doing. There definitely was a piece of the stress I was under was impacting sleep and the quality of my life. And taking that long-term lens of being able to show up as the best father and the best husband, the best coworker, the best leader, the best friend as I could every day, that was something I needed to make a change. You definitely have a role in that. Like you changed my life, you changed my daughter's life and my wife's.
Oh, so number one, even as you're speaking behind you, you have the believe sign a la Ted Lasso, and you are my biggest Ted Lasso. Exactly. And for anyone not being able to see this, taking a high five to the believe sign, such a Ted Lasso for life. And it's just been so inspiring to see the type of, the integrity by which you're approaching your life by virtue of some of these things and getting this dynamic feedback through data and through metrics to see what's working, what's not working, and then having that ripple effect. You're one of the only clients that I can think of that I've gotten an email from their significant other about then just the ripple effects and how it's impacted the rest of the family, and just, and clearly having people in your corner that are rooting for you and vice versa. Just, it's really a very cool thing that you've taken on with gusto. I really acknowledge you.
Yeah, it's I'll apologize in advance if I get a little emotional, but it changed the trajectory of our relationship and the relationships I have in my life now. And it takes a partner. This is a commitment. Again, I don't mean to make it sound funny, but it is a commitment to really, for the length of time you're in the cohort, follow the protocols. And you have to have a partner that supports that. If I had a partner who was poking fun at me for putting candles on in the middle of the night, and we're blacking out every window and we're switching to red lights, we're changing our dinner times, like all of those things, to really get the most out of this, it's important to commit to. So if you have a partner in your life, talking to them about this first and having that full support of this is going to impact you. And my gosh, how lucky am I that I had that support?
Yeah.
Where we are now, how worth it was. And we don't do all those things every night now.
Right, exactly.
But for the program, it was important to learn and to see it in the data and then make the choice of, yep, this is going to become part of our life, or it's not. Or we know that when we get off track and we have a fun week, we go back to those things. So I really was very, very fortunate to have the support of my partner and my family in this.
Huge. Absolutely. I'm so glad you mentioned that too, because, and it's not to say if anyone's listening, like, oh no, my partner's not going to be on board with all this. And yet there's a couple of things to think about with that. One, I think it can augment the experience when we have a partner that's on board and willing to support and can get right in there. And so that can become really an exciting thing. Sometimes now we've even in the cohorts, we'll have couples that will do it together, which is really exciting. And, all of these different ways that it can spill over. So that can be so helpful and even help by virtue, kids sleep and just by even the environment and teaching these healthy skills. And then on the flip side, if you are someone that's listening and saying, oh no, I know my, whatever, my significant other might make fun of me for all this process. That's even more important to then have the accountability and the support to, because it can take even more kind of personal fortitude and willpower to then make some of these shifts. And the more people in your corner to remind you of the why can really help to make sure that happens. So that's a great point.
Yeah, and you nailed it, Molly. And the advice I'll give to those individuals who need to have that conversation is, if I flash back and think about 2 years ago, needing to be out the door in my office for 8 o'clock, I was a troll in the morning. Like it was a hurricane to get up early, get on the bike, shower, make my lunch. Maybe if I'm lucky, see my daughter. I was never in a great state of mind.
Yeah.
Grab a kiss out the door and then hope to get home before 6 p.m. And then now what the difference is, where it's like, wake up with fully rested, get to go through my morning routine, get to play in the playroom with my daughter, give my wife some time. We have some time later to connect, and we go through our routine at night. Like, it's incredible when you start to like really think out into the future of the life you want to design. It's worth the effort to understand and put in the work with you how to design that.
I love that you use the word design too, because that's really something that I think can be such a rare opportunity to really sit and craft a day that, and I say day because, that's one of the places that we begin is crafting, your circadian crafted day, and then getting that our days are our lives. And what you just painted this picture is so remarkable because you really transformed what your days look like, which transforms how your life looks and the trajectory of that. So fantastic. And I know you also, I'm blanking on the amount, but I believe you had lost some weight in the process of this. Was this right? Because a lot of people, I've said this to people and they're like, wait, why would you lose weight if you're working in your sleep? But I'm wondering if you can kind of refresh my memory on what that all looked like.
That was one of the best unintended outcomes of, I lost 40 pounds through this. And it was a combination of all the work I was doing with you and sleeping. And that came with some different protocols like intermittent fasting that I was doing, and then zone 2 training. So those like 3 legs of the stool happen to be my secret sauce. Like that is when I know when I need to go back to something. Those are the 3 things I need to go back to, is getting my sleep in order, my meal timing, and zone 2 exercise. All of them impact my resting heart rate in a really positive way and my heart rate variability in a really positive way. And ultimately, I'm getting really restful sleep when I've got those 2 things going on.
Oh my gosh, 40. I didn't realize it was up to, that was a number. That was amazing. You are such an example. So shifting gears, flash forward, you went through this process, you transformed so many things, really just incredible, such an inspiration. And you even then took it to the level of, could this be something where you actually see a missing in the market and really bringing something to fruition that might help people on a similar journey? I wonder if you can share about that.
Yeah. So this is, again, back to the Trojan horse, Molly, that through everything I learned from you and through the program, I ended up getting a device called Leaf. And Leaf was through the day monitoring my HRV. And essentially, it's a proxy to your nervous system of how stressed or not stressed are you. And I was redlined all the time, and it blew my mind. But what I learned through Leaf, and then as I started to get my sleep and my habits under control, was I started to get to much more of a balance, back into homeostasis more often. But I'd find these times where my body would slip into the sympathetic state. So it'd be in fight or flight when it really shocked me. And I specifically remember the moment, the aha moment of, this is going to sound so nerdy, I was working on a PowerPoint deck. But I love to create and I love to present. So it's something I was really excited about. I'm sitting there, I'm grinding away, having a great time, designing stuff, thinking about how I'm going to present it. And it starts going off. And I'm like, what do you mean? And then I've got to stop. And I got really good at it. So it would take me 2 or 3 breaths. I'd be back out, I'd be back grinding away. It goes off again. I'm like, this is just bizarre. But then finally I stopped. I said, oh, my body hunched over. I kind of stopped breathing. And I've learned now there's actually a term called screen apnea. Yeah, which I didn't know. So I'm putting myself into this stressed state while I'm doing something I enjoy. I also was having that experience while I was cooking, is I'd be there and I love to cook. I love to create. And I'm chopping carrots and darn things going off. And I'm like, what the heck is happening? So I started to think like, all right, I know breath work works. I'm engaging in breath work in all kinds of ways and specifically targeted with the Leaf. But every way that I was engaging with breath work, I had to stop what I was doing. So I was either looking at a flower on my watch, or I was counting in my head, or I was listening to something that was simulating it, or I was following the leaf, but I couldn't keep my focus on what I was doing. I had to stop. So I thought about that piece. And also I'm like, well, my nervous system also just got unnecessarily stressed. So is there a way where I could engage in those breath patterns while doing the things that I'm enjoying or I want to be doing that are going to keep me in a parasympathetic state, and I don't have to stop? So that was as Clayton Christensen would say, that's the job to be done. And I found that I'm an N of one for that, or at least I was at the time.
Yeah.
I actually listened to, I'm trying to think what podcast it was on. It might have been Rich Roll or Tim Ferriss, but Laird Hamilton was on it. And one of his pieces of advice was that he would give himself is patent all your ideas. And I thought, why don't I apply for a patent? And I started going down that rabbit hole where I just used LegalZoom. I didn't know how else to start. And then they had someone who does the drawings, and I downloaded some CAD software and kind of learned that. And now suddenly I have my original sketches, I have my CAD drawings, and now I have patent drawings, and I'm patent pending for this device. Whether it's something that's going to come to market or not, it lit this creative fire in me I hadn't felt in a long time. It got me playing with technology a lot more. So I've actually bought some circuit boards, and I sent you the video of me with two hoses in my mouth. But it's that's a prototype. It's working. Yeah. And I'm going through a few accelerator programs right now, one at Brown University and one through Rhode Island Hub, just to do some customer discovery. Now it's like, all right, I've got to let my problem to solve go and see if this is actually a problem to solve for other individuals as well. And in one of the interviews I did, it was so perfect. It was like, I explained it, and they were like, would you use it? Well, and the person was wearing glasses. And he's like, well, I think about it like my glasses, and they're there, and I can see when they're on. So if you can design it in a way where I basically put it in the same way I put my glasses on, and I can be unconsciously engaged in it, then of course I would. So I've gotten just really cool feedback on it. And if nothing else, and again, here's my cheerleader, my pom-poms, I would not have applied for a patent had I not met Molly, and had I not gone through Sleep as a Skill. So it really is, and this is the Trojan horse of your life opens up, your brain starts firing in a different way. You have sustainable energy to engage in creativity again. And it all starts with sleep.
Yes. Oh my God. You're so inspiring. It's so amazing. And as you were speaking, I realized I should have asked you this before we hit record, but would it be helpful at all for anyone listening? I know you're doing some kind of focus group work. If someone's listening and saying, oh, I'm struggling with anxiety, I'd love to try this thing. Is that something that would be helpful just even to get that feedback for a free exchange for people?
Yeah, right now, anyone who's interested in just going through a customer discovery interview of getting to know me getting to know you, and then understanding a little bit better about what you would look for in a device like this, what if you had a magic wand, kind of what it would be able to do, or what you definitely wouldn't want it to do. Why or why not wouldn't you use it? All of those things would be incredibly helpful. I'm in the feedback stage. I'm doing a little basement coding and design work to try and get a working prototype I can actually just use, like an Elite HRV or even my own Leaf to test it on myself.
Sure.
I'm having fun, and I'm going to see where it takes me. It's been a lot of fun to work on.
I love that so much. And, just even waxing on a little bit of the philosophy of what I've seen just personally, anecdotally, some of the things that seem to be required for people to get great sleep is to have that sense of workability in their life, the life trajectory that's going in a particular direction that they're pleased with, that they are not frustrated by or feeling stuckness, or just that it was ascribed to them and it's really of their own creation and design, no matter what that thing is. And we just find that sense of, well, you can call it lots of different things, purpose, mission, whatever it might be for the individual, just seems to be this inextricable thing that gets a little bit more nuanced and esoteric, but I think cannot be overlooked. Its importance for a sense of fulfillment in our life, and then our ability to lay our head on the pillow and feel at ease and at peace. So I love that you're creatively engaged in your own life, which is amazing. So great. So awesome. Well, so now I'm actually really curious on the 4 questions that we asked for everyone, because it's been a while. So I'm curious what's happening with your habits, because I, for so long was so connected to them. And so I want to see what's evolved or what's happened or where you're at. So we do ask these 4 questions. The first one is, what is your nightly sleep routine looking like right now?
It's funny as I think about this, Molly, because I am so grateful I don't have to date because I had to introduce someone to my sleep routine. I don't think I'd ever get a second date.
Right. Same.
It's really funny to think about of like, boy, if I ever had to take someone through what I do and why, it's pretty wild. So I hold a really strict bedtime. I'm asleep or laying down to go to sleep anywhere between 9:45 and 10 o'clock. Like that is, no one's inviting me to the movies or out again. I'm going to be a terrible nighttime date if I ever had to enter that market again, which I gladly do not.
Yes, same. Our thank goodness for our significant others. My goodness, they're just like amazing for what they see and put up with.
So actually, it starts all the way at dinner. My bedtime routine with trying to eat no later than 6 o'clock. Would love to have 4 hours of digestion before I go to bed. I really try to shoot for no less than 3. So I'm targeting dinner at 6 o'clock. And back to, I'm going to ring the Trojan horse bell again. Yeah. It's got us having family dinners. We're not all eating at ad hoc times. We're sitting down at the dinner table and talking to each other and having dinner together every night. And that's usually between 5 and 6 p.m. So then we go through our wind down routine with our daughter. And one of the two of us puts her down, and then on go the orange blue blockers. As soon as I'm done with my routine, reading bedtime books, and then we do at most probably an hour of TV. I've made the mistake of watching things that are a little bit more intense too close to bed. In fact, we watched the Stutz documentary the other night, and which is fantastic. But you learn that it stirs things up of you. It gets your mind going in ways that aren't great for sleep. So really we try and watch programming that's a little bit more low key, a little bit more wind down, and then leave about a half an hour or so with no screens. So while I've been watching TV, my Uller has turned on and started to get my bed to the perfect temperature for me. I like it cold. So I have my Uller drops the bed temp down quite a bit. Brush the teeth, on goes the mouth tape. I can't even imagine introducing someone to this routine, but on goes the mouth tape. I use Cocoon night buds to have some white noise and a sleep meditation, about a half an hour sleep meditation that I usually never make it through. And then the, is it Manta?
Yeah, IMAS, sure.
Yeah, that's it. So and then the sleep schedule, my Uller's dropping the temperature throughout the night. I did get away from the warm wake up. I found that it started to become a signal to wake up mentally. So I don't do the warm wake up on it at all anymore. And I also never check the time if I do wake up in the middle of the night. That's really important. And I have an alarm. I wake up at 6 o'clock every morning. So everything is, it's a regimented put sleep in the bank routine. It doesn't mean I don't have nights where I don't ruminate. And in fact, actually last night was one of those where I saw by my data, I woke up somewhere around 3 and I struggled here and there. But I don't check the phone and I don't check the time. And more often than not, I'll end up being able to fall back asleep if I do that. If I do check the time, I'm done. I probably won't get back to sleep.
Isn't that interesting too? Because then we start making all this meaning. Oh no, count backwards. We only have X amount of hours, yada, yada, yada. It's just these things can hook us. So love that you're discovering what works for you, what doesn't. That's fantastic. I love that evening routine. And what we added on, we used to not have this question, but we added this on, which is, what is your morning quote unquote sleep routine look like, meaning that we believe that your morning routine can impact your sleep results. So what would we see there?
So if I'm following a morning routine, which I'm not as disciplined with, I'm better in the summer when the light's there. It's get outside and get sunlight. That's the first thing that I'm trying to do. And actually, that was a nice moment, part of the sleep routine for Casey and I, get our cups of coffee, go outside, and we connect first thing in the morning. So sunlight in the morning. I'm right now doing just a 10-minute Peloton meditations. I really like a body scan or some kind of visualization. So I'm doing that first. I was doing some breathing. I was using some of the elite HRV protocols. So I try to do, it's always sunlight. I backed off of caffeine. So I do give myself a cup of caffeine in the morning, but then I switch over to more of a decaf. I still like the ritual of coffee. But so it's a lighter morning routine when I'm really regimented, especially in the summer. Sunlight, some kind of meditation or breathing exercise. I don't do breakfast usually. I'm trying to do more of like a 16-8 fast. So breakfast is a little bit later, maybe like 10 or 11 in the morning.
So good. Now, this one, I don't know if it's still going to be a staple for your summers, but I have shared with certain people that are looking to get creative with their morning routines. You, as an example, so I know there was a stretch, and I think this was during the pandemic, but there's a stretch where you ride the stack, the Peloton, the garage, the whole right.
Yeah. So what I was doing in the summer was I put my road bike on a trainer and I opened the garage. So I was getting up and between 5 and 5:30, and I was riding the bike basically outside while the sun rose.
So
So I
smart.
was maximizing my stack of getting my zone 2 in while I was getting sunlight. And being able to exercise in the morning like that also showed me I didn't need as much caffeine. I mean, I was drinking 4 or 5 cups, and even in the afternoon. I like my 1 cup of caffeine. I probably don't even need it, honestly,
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
But it just has become ritual and laziness. If it's hard, I don't want to make 2
Yeah.
pots of coffee. I metabolize it pretty quickly, so
Yeah.
it's not a big deal. But yeah, so that was a cool stack of getting my zone 2 in while I was watching the sunrise.
Yeah, I love that. And I remember, I think the nerdiness in me liked, I think sometimes you would even kind of layer in podcasts. And so you're learning, you're biking, you've got the sun, the whole thing. So fantastic.
That's exactly right. So I had written an article about like how you can read books and maximize your health all at the same time, or listen to a podcast, listen to an audiobook while you're doing your zone 2, and really just working on yourself.
So good. I love that. Amazing. And just making it work for you within the time that you have allotted. Fantastic. And then the third question would be, what might we see on your nightstand? Could be proverbial nightstand if you're traveling, or apps or gadgets or anything.
Yeah, my nightstand is actually pretty clean. It's got my mouth tape on it. And honestly, that might be about it. It's just random things.
Minimal,
whatever my daughter has potentially left on it.
That's fantastic.
From following your program, all the devices went into kind of like this wicker charging drawer. So everything goes in there, and then that closes for the night. So no lights coming in, and there's no desire to interact with it.
So great. Yeah.
Are really clear.
I think that's actually probably one of the most winning answers, is the less that's there often can be really fantastic. That's so great. Okay. So, and then I love the mouth tape too. Amazing.
My earbuds and my mask are what's on my nightstand before I go to bed.
So good. Okay. And then the last question would be, what have you seen that's made kind of the biggest change to your sleep game, or maybe the biggest aha moment in managing your sleep?
Yeah, sadly, it came after us working together.
Oh my gosh. Okay. It's like layers on. Yeah.
Yeah, it came later. It's the consistent bed and sleep and wake time. I was not disciplined with that. I was trying to find workability in like, okay, I'll get up and exercise this day. I won't do that day. Yeah. And that actually became one, it was throwing off my circadian rhythm and my super chiasmatic nucleus.
Yes, that's the one.
Great. So it was throwing all of that off. And I was actually stressing myself out of like, if I had a night where I was ruminating, well, oh boy, maybe I should sleep or I shouldn't sleep. So I was like getting into a second loop in my head over that. Yeah. So it was this silly Web3 NFT game called Sleepagachi. Yes. That rewards you for a constant sleep and wake time. And that was what I was like, it just is fun. Like it just was fun to gamify that aspect. Yeah. And once I locked that in, Molly, I can't make it till 10:15. Like my melatonin just comes pouring in, around 9:30, 9:45. And I won't make it through a show. I won't make it through anything. That consistent sleep and wake time has been the biggest change. I would say the one that I discovered the most with you was food timing. I don't eat dinner. I really try not to eat past 6 o'clock at night. That has a big impact on my sleep.
So great. I love that too, that you're pointing to the fact, because what we want to create for our intention is to create for people that this is a opportunity for kind of life mastery, not just, you get a couple of things and now you're done and it's good sleeper, bad sleeper, like false binaries. Our intention instead is that you continually evaluate, things change, we age, different things come into play, different variables, and that we're continually experimenting and hopefully, just having fun and being awake at the wheel of what's happening in our lives and testing out different things. So I love that you're staying engaged.
And what's cool about locking down a stack like this or understanding your recipe is we hit the holidays. Like we let it rip. We ate too much sugar. We drank too much. We had inconsistent bedtimes. But I always knew it's like, all I have to do is go back to my routine. And it might take a day or two to like kind of get off the sugar fix that you've gotten yourself onto. But yeah, all of a sudden I'm just like, well, just right back into the routine. So it good. Sounds, I'm sure to a listener who is thinking about doing this is like, oh, I couldn't do all that, or I don't want to have to do all that. And you don't have to. Yeah. And it's all about understanding you and what works for you, and then being able to have workability and confidence, and back to having the skill to sleep. I have the skill to sleep well now. So now I can flex in and out of the workability that I want to have, always having the confidence I can go back to my routine.
So awesome. Greg, such an inspiration. And for people that are listening that are saying, well, one, I want to chat. I know you, like you said, it's just a free opportunity for people to learn more about what it is that you're kind of exploring and creating, and how that might be able to help them with their kind of anxiety and stress management, which certainly we know go hand in hand with sleep results. And so how can people learn more about, possibly connecting with you about that and just following what you're creating?
So I'm just my initials at G Calderiso on Twitter, Greg Calderiso on LinkedIn, and probably email is the best way to get me. It's just greg.calderiso@gmail.com. I'm super responsive. I'd be happy to engage with anyone who's interested in this, and honestly, happy to engage with anyone who has questions about the program, is struggling. I can't speak highly enough. Hopefully you can hear the passion and excitement that's coming through. It changed my life. I truly believe it can change anyone's life. It's remarkable.
Well, Greg, so grateful. Such a amazing opportunity just for myself to be a part of seeing what was possible for you and what continues to be possible. I mean, I'm always in awe of what you're up to, and accelerator programs and patents and all the things. I mean, it's just incredible. And you're bringing that passion and aliveness to your life and to helping the masses. And I know that it's coming from such a genuine and awesome place. So I'm just such a support of what you're creating and what you will continue to create, and just grateful to be on this journey with you. And just, thank you so much. And maybe we'll have to have you back for round 2 once you're at this crazy startup or whatever you're going to build with all this.
Would love to. No, and I'm so grateful for our relationship and getting to meet you, and this having formed into a friendship, and just getting the opportunity to be here and share this story. It really means a lot, Molly. So thank you.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you to your amazing family too. I know you've just been such a cool example for them, and, just been able to build something really, really special. So appreciate you, and more to come. You've been listening to the Sleep is a Skill podcast, the #1 podcast for people who want to take their sleep skills to the next level. Every Monday, I send out something that I call Molly's Monday Obsessions, containing everything that I'm obsessing over in the world of sleep. Head on over to sleepisaskill.com to sign up.